with a lot of you there in Palmer at the Great Alaska Aviation Gathering. Go ahead and looks like we may be back now. So apologize for the folks there on Facebook that may have jumped off for just a second, but looks like we're back. So yeah, talking about the Great Alaska Aviation Gathering. It's good to see a lot of you there. If you were attending my briefing on Sunday afternoon, I've got some updates on some of the things we talked about. But if you were not there, I've got lots of information. So let's go ahead and get started. First off, new information tomorrow in Anchorage. There is a VIP TFR. President Biden and his wife are on their way to Anchorage tomorrow. President Biden is going to continue on to Japan for some meetings there. You've probably seen some of that in the media. His wife is going to stick behind, it sounds like, and head out to Bethel and visit for a little bit out there. So there will be a TFR in Anchorage, typical presidential style TFR, a no-fly zone in the center, and then a larger ring outside of that where you have to be on a flight plan with a discrete squawk code and all of those things. Please check NOTAMs. Please read up on what that NOTAM says. While it is cool to see F-22s flying around, you don't want to have an air show right next to you with the F-22s tomorrow. So times may vary, so don't trust what the TFR says tonight for the actual times tomorrow. That should give you a ballpark, but the president's schedule is very fluid and flexible, so you should be as well. So again, tomorrow, May 17th, is a TFR for President Biden as he's traveling through the Anchorage area tomorrow. A couple other things I want to make sure you're aware of. The National Weather Service has issued a couple of public comment notices. One of them is for the Alaska Weather TV program that is broadcast on Alaska Public Media. If you're familiar with that program, it is going away from Alaska Public Media. It will still be on YouTube. It will change a little bit once it gets solely on YouTube. And they're looking for some feedback as to what you think, how you think that's going to affect your operations, what's that going to do to your pre-flight planning, and how is that going to affect your ability to keep up to speed on the weather changes across the state. So watch the Alaska Weather TV program. They'll talk about how you can comment there. You can do a search for another comment period that is out, or you can direct message me and I'll be glad to send you the link to both of these comment periods. The area forecast, the textual area forecast for Alaska, they will stop issuing the 8 o'clock p.m. area forecast is what they're considering doing. That's for staffing shortages. What that's going to mean is we're going to have a 4-hour period from midnight to 4 a.m. where there will not be an area forecast. Now, if we have to pick a particular time of the day or night that would occur, midnight to 4 a.m. is probably the best time frame to do that. So, yeah, please make sure you comment on those things. Very important that the National Weather Service gets your feedback on that. I've already talked to several of the folks there, but the Alaska Airmen's Association will be submitting some written comments. In general, what am I going to say in those comments? Totally understand the staffing shortage. Wish we had had a way to help with that. If you know a meteorologist that's interested in working for the National Weather Service in Alaska, there's openings. there's several openings, it sounds like. And agree that the midnight to 4 a.m. time slot is probably the best time slot to not have a area forecast. As far as the Alaska Weather TV program, I think YouTube is a great platform. It's been there for many years now. That's actually where I watch Alaska weather. And I've got some ideas about how the format may be better suited for primarily and solely being on YouTube. I would like to see that program continue. I think the information they present is very valuable. I think the format in which they present it is very good. I think they now may have some flexibility because it being on YouTube to not have to fit within a certain time constraint for broadcast TV. So they may have some flexibility there that they didn't have before. So fully support the National Weather Service and what they're doing, issuing these products for us. And so that's just a general sense of what is going to be in the Alaska Airmen's comment letters for those two events. All right, so GPS jamming. I've talked about this every time it comes up. It's happening again. It's happening right now. It's happening until May 20th. Check your NOTAMs about that. This event is huge. I mean, big, like the biggest ever, to kind of quote our former president. So it's huge. 776 nautical mile radius at 50-foot AGL, centered on Fort Greely over in Delta Junction. This is big. This is really, really, really big. I have received several reports from folks that have been actively jammed during these events. And so, yes, it's happening. It's for real. Check the NOTAMs for specific times on that. The military has taken some of our comments from the Alaska Airmen's Association and modified a little bit about how they're talking about this. They have publicly stated that this is an airborne jamming event. This is not ground-based GPS jamming. That is why the area is so big, because we're in the middle of Northern Edge. Big military exercise and lots of things happening as part of that exercise. This is the exercise where they test new equipment, where they do some research and development on new weapon systems. This is where they try out new tactics and all that stuff. And so it is important, and I want to go on record that the Alaska Airmen's Association fully supports our military and their need to train. Fully support it. What we have consternation about is the way that we have all become so dependent on GPS, and I blame ourselves for this. I also put some of the blame on the FAA because they have encouraged us to do that. They've done some things that have forced us to do that by decommissioning legacy nav aids, by not necessarily maintaining some of these legacy nav aids to their fullest operating potential. And now when the military does what they have told us from the very beginning, they may turn it off at any time for any reason because it's their system. And they are training the way that they plan on fighting. We anticipate that they would fight it the way that they train, and the Alaska Airmen's Association fully supports them in doing that. We do have some concerns that folks have become overly reliant on GPS. Here is my caution and here's my plead to you. Do not get yourself into a situation where you are relying on GPS, and especially the terrain page, to keep you from hitting the side of a mountain. We have all flown from VFR weather into marginal VFR. We've all done it. We have pushed further into marginal VFR conditions than we should have. Some of us find ourselves operating in IFR and having to get back out of that. If you rely on GPS to be able to get you out of those situations or lull you into a sense of security to get deeper into these situations, please know that your GPS may turn off at any time because of the jamming activity that's happening. It's not a good thing to be doing those things at any time. It is especially not good to be doing them right now. Please do not become solely relied on GPS to keep you from hitting the side of a mountain, because it can go away at any second. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Check NOTAMs, dig deep to find the times in the NOTAMs. Flight service will know when they are jamming. I actually helped a buddy yesterday who was having problems with his GPS here at my home airport in Nenana. We were able to call flight service on the radio, and they confirmed that yes, they were in fact actively jamming at that time, and his GPS was not working. So it's legit. It's actually happening. Now, something else that could be happening during these exercises, the military aircraft may be turning off of their transponders. Now, stand to reason that they would do this. They're in military exercises. They're trying to hide from their adversaries, the opposing force in these exercises. And when they are inside the MOAs and inside the restricted areas, I think we've all just assumed that they may be doing this already, but they are now, the military is now telling us that they will be turning off their transponders from time to time. And so if you have a TCAS system, or if you are thinking that you could rely on ADSB for that rebroadcast of traffic information in some areas of the state, it's not going to happen. That's just, you're not going to see them on TCAS. So be aware of that. looking to see what's happening down in Juneau. Been following some of the activities just today, trying to get a budget passed and what is that going to look like. And there was a bill that popped up about a 1.5 cent surcharge on all fuel. That was for a spill response. Been watching that and asking some questions about what's happening there. I'm not really sure what's going to happen with that finally in this session or not, but keeping a close eye on that. With that, fuel, 100 low lead. Crowley, if you don't know this already, but Crowley is the importer of 100 low lead into the state of Alaska. They may not be who you actually purchase it from at the pump, but every drop of 100 low lead that comes into the state of Alaska comes through Crowley's fingers. It comes through their barges as they bring it up from California here into Alaska. Crowley is looking to see what potential alternative fuels may be preferred here in the state. Had a conversation with those folks at the Great Alaska Aviation Gathering in Palmer a couple weekends ago, and there's a possibility they may be bringing up the GAMI, the G100 unleaded fuel on a test basis to see how that plays out with some operators here in the state. Crowley is looking to see what fuel they're going to import when 100 low lead goes away, because let's be honest, folks, we all know that it's going to go away. We're waiting on the EPA to issue their determination, their hazard determination. Endangerment ruling, I think, is actually the phrase they use. And so where do we go from there? Well, here's the position of the Alaska Airmen's Association. We understand that 100 low lead is going away. We can have a conversation as to whether or not leaded fuel actually has some of the impacts that some of the people are claiming. There's been some studies done actually here in the state of Alaska about leaded avgas and what that does for the air. Some of those studies don't necessarily support some of the claims, but lead is not good. I don't think any of us would argue that it is. Now, it does have benefits for us in aviation for our engines. It's a magical thing. It does great things for our engines. There is no easy replacement for this. If there was, it would have happened years ago. But I think we all can see the handwriting on the wall that eventually 100 low lead is going to go away. Alaska is a great place to test. Alaska is a great place to prove a particular product or a new system. If it will work in Alaska, it should work just about anywhere else on the planet. However, I do not think that Alaska is the place to make an early decision about what fuel we will have. Crowley wants to handle just one product. Totally understand that. They're trying to figure out what that one product might be. I think it is too early for us to make a decision because there is only one approved product via an STC process. There are other manufacturers of fuel that are going through the certification process, through the EAGLE program and PAFI and all those things. It's too early right now to pick a winner. It's just, we just don't have all the details. So my conversations with Crowley have been, yes, appreciate what you're doing. Thank you for trying to get some of this new fuel up here to see what it does in the real world for us in Alaska. But it is too early in the game to make a final decision as to what product you're going to distribute in the state of Alaska. They understand that, and they are not making that decision today. So they are looking for input. They're looking for your opinion and all those things. And Alaska Airmen's Association is going to be a continuing part of that process. So moving on to some other things for us here. Customs. I've had several reports from folks that have come into the state and had some surprises, is probably the best way to put it. Customs in Northway or at the U.S. border, at the Alcan border, will only come to Northway 2 times a day on most days of the week, but on Thursdays they're there more hours than that. It's caused a little bit of problem for folks scheduling and coming in from Whitehorse. Now, Customs has been very good about letting people do a tech stop and toke and refuel and then go on to Fairbanks or to Anchorage if they don't want to clear in Northway during those 2 hours, those 2 times each day to be able to clear. 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. I think are the 2 times that Customs will clear you in Northway. So if that doesn't work with your flight planning, you need to have a conversation with them sooner rather than later about coming through and clearing customs. Now, we've talked with customs about this. They are claiming a staffing issue and overtime pay and all of those things, which we understand. But 9 a.m., that's a hard time to get to Northway when you're in a small single-engine aircraft leaving Whitehorse. 3 p.m. is also a difficult time because that puts you right in the biggest part of the convective activity throughout the summer. So those aren't very convenient times for us. It may be convenient for them, but it is not convenient for us. So something else is coming down the line, and I want to kind of keep it under 20 minutes here, so we've got just a couple minutes left. The National Transportation Safety Board will most likely be issuing a safety alert concerning floats, aircraft floats, and inspecting your floats and looking for corrosion on your floats. There have been some fatal accidents involving floats in the past recent history, and lack of maintenance or poor maintenance is a contributing factor most likely to those events. There was another event at Lake Hood where there were not fatalities. Thankfully, folks were able to get out of that aircraft after the floats opened up on the bottom and it flipped them right over. So look for a safety alert from the National Transportation Safety Board encouraging you to do a thorough inspection for corrosion on your floats as you get ready for the float flying season. They're also considering making recommendations to the FAA for keeping a logbook on your floats. Most people don't have logbooks for their floats. And when was the last time your mechanic at the annual actually was able to lay eyes on your set of floats? A lot of people do their annuals in the winter, which makes sense. That's usually the slow time for the flying, especially if you're a float pilot and you leave your floats on for the summer but take them off for the winter. It's very difficult to get a straight float equipped aircraft to the airport that does your maintenance most likely. So these are things to think about. I walked around Lake Hood the week following the Great Alaska Aviation Gathering and just looked at some of the floats that were sitting there, and it is appalling how bad some of the corrosion is on some of these floats that folks are out flying around in. So do your due diligence. Do a good inspection. Have your mechanic do a good, thorough inspection on your floats before you go install them this summer. So just a couple of other items for us this evening. Trent Palmer in the 91-119 case. If you don't know what 91-119 says, you should go look that up. You should know this. That's minimum safe altitudes. So you may not be familiar, but Trent Palmer is a YouTube sensation and celebrity. He's been in some hot water with the FAA about doing a low pass, an inspection pass over an area where he was contemplating landing, but then decided not to. A neighbor called the FAA as well as the Sheriff's Department, and there was an investigation. The FAA thought that Trent Palmer was too low and should not have been doing what he was doing. His defense is that the FAA actually, reaching over here and grabbing this, in this document, recommends doing an inspection pass. The administrative law judge says that this is not regulatory, this is advisory, and they would be correct. This is not the FAR's. So it's been appealed, it's been going back and forth. Trent Palmer has lost that case, but now he is appealing to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. So here's the deal, be careful. Also, be careful what you film, and be careful what you put out there on social media. Don't incriminate yourself with doing something stupid and foolish. I mean, come on. I know it looks cool. I know that it's great to see some of these pictures and videos of folks out flying. But if you're going to do something marginal when it comes to legalities, don't film it. Don't incriminate yourself. Be sensible about those things. That's all I'll say about those. We're at the time limit that I have self-imposed upon myself, but just wanted to quickly give you some numbers with the folks that were having to retest for their instrument check rides. There turned out to be 128 of those people instead of what we thought was originally 147. And the FAA says that they have tested 60 of those so far, so they're about at the halfway mark. And so far, every person has passed. So that's great, encouraging news. However, there are 27 people that have not responded that the FAA has reached out to. Please, if you got a letter from the FAA, do not ignore it. Make contact with the FAA. Figure out a plan to get this resolved. Do this. Don't let your instrument ticket go away. It's not worth it. Keep that thing. Also want to remind you that the Alaska Airmen's Association has purchased a block of simulator time with a flight instructor at the UAA Center there at Merrill Field. And I know that's not convenient for everybody in the state, but if you are one of those 128 people, we want to make sure you are able to get proficient and ready for that precision approach that you're going to have to fly with the FAA to keep your instrument ticket. So if you are one of those people and you have not availed yourself of that simulator time, please reach out to us at the Airmen's Association office, and we will be glad to give you some more details. So once again, my name's Adam White, Government and Legislative Affairs for the Alaska Airmen's Association. If you want to talk more about some of the issues I brought up tonight, you can send me a message here through social media. You can also go to alaskaairmen.org, and you can find my contact information there. You can call the main office number, and I'm one of the options there in the voice menu for the tree there for the phone. So with that, I'll say good night to all of you. Enjoy the summer flying. Make good choices. Be safe. And don't push the weather. And check NOTAMs. TFRs are out there, and you don't want to get nabbed. All right. Good night, everybody.